Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this: a world without modern plumbing, no clean flush toilets, no running water, just a button away, no quiet bathroom breaks in private rooms. Instead, you find yourself in an ancient village or a bustling city long before our time, where going to the bathroom was an entirely different experience. Awkward, sometimes dangerous, and often a little bit messy. How did people manage this basic, yet essential part of daily life? How did they deal with their waste? Quietly, carefully, and without the comforts we take for granted today. In this video, we're going on a calm, slow journey into the past. We'll explore the curious, surprising, and sometimes downright bizarre ways that ancient civilizations handled what we now simply call going to the bathroom. This isn't a thrilling adventure or a fast-paced story. Instead, it's a quiet walk through history, one that reveals a very human side of life in the ancient world. Most history talks about great battles, kings, and empires. But today, we're going to dig into something much more personal: how people solved a problem that every single person faces. We'll start with the earliest humans and move through time, visiting remarkable cultures like Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, ancient China, and of course, the well-known civilizations of Greece, Rome, and medieval Europe. But we won't stop there. We'll uncover lesser-known facts and stories about sanitation that you probably never heard before. Did you know that some ancient cities had toilets connected to early sewage systems? Or that in some places, human waste was actually recycled for farming? There are surprising truths hidden beneath the surface of these ancient bathroom habits, facts that show just how inventive, practical, and sometimes strange our ancestors could be. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just what ancient toilets looked like, but how sanitation affected health, society, and culture in ways we rarely think about today. You'll see how the problem of waste shaped cities, influenced religion, and even affected politics. So why should you stay with us for the full 2 hours? Because this isn't just about toilets. It's about human life, about how people adapted, survived, and found solutions to problems that have challenged every generation before us. It's a story full of mystery, odd inventions, and everyday struggles, all wrapped in a calm, easy-to-follow narrative that's perfect for those moments when you want to learn something new but also relax and drift away. Whether you're a history lover, a curious mind, or just someone looking for a soothing video to wind down to, this deep dive into ancient bathroom habits is designed for you. Welcome to Restless Historian, where we explore history's overlooked corners, telling stories that are sometimes boring, but always fascinating if you listen closely. If you're ready, find a comfortable spot, settle in, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss our future slow, sleepy journeys into the past. Now, let's quietly step back in time and see how people in ancient civilizations went to the bathroom. The very beginning, prehistoric and early human habits. Before we talk about toilets as we know them today, we need to step way back to a time long before cities, plumbing, or even permanent homes. This was the prehistoric world, where early humans lived in small groups, roaming the land and facing daily challenges to survive. Among those challenges was something everyone faces: what to do when nature calls. In those very early days, there were no bathrooms, no toilets, no sanitation systems. People simply had to go outside wherever they found a spot. This meant outdoor defecation was the norm, a messy, risky business. Finding a quiet, safe place to relieve themselves was important, not just for privacy, but also for health. Human waste carries diseases, and living close to it can quickly spread sickness. But early humans didn't know about germs or bacteria. They relied on instinct and simple habits to avoid getting sick. Often, early humans would choose spots away from their sleeping areas or camps to do their business. This was a way to keep their living spaces clean and reduce smells and insects. Sometimes, they might use natural features like dense bushes, caves, or riverbanks as privacy screens. But this was not just about comfort. Safety played a role. Going alone, away from the group, made people vulnerable to predators or accidents, especially for women and children. As humans began settling down and forming early villages, their approach to waste started to change. Archaeologists have found evidence of early latrines, simple holes dug in the ground, sometimes lined with stones or wood to keep them stable. These were likely used by small groups or families, showing a step toward controlling waste instead of leaving it scattered. One fascinating example comes from Çatalhöyük, one of the world's oldest known towns. Located in present-day Turkey, archaeologists discovered remains of primitive toilets dating back around 9,000 years. These were small pits located just outside houses, sometimes with nearby drainage channels that helped carry waste away. This suggests early humans were already thinking about how to separate themselves from their waste to keep living spaces cleaner. Cesspits, deeper holes meant for storing waste, also appear in archaeological records from early settlements. These pits might have been covered with planks or stones, hidden away to keep smells down and pests away. Some experts believe that ancient people realized human waste could be dangerous, but also useful as a kind of fertilizer for crops. This understanding likely played a part in how waste disposal evolved. Before we talk about later ancient civilizations and their complex toilets, it's important to see how these early habits set the foundation. The idea of designated waste, spots, digging holes, and even rudimentary drainage were all early steps toward the sophisticated sanitation systems that would come later. Early humans' struggles with waste weren't just about convenience. They had real consequences for health, hygiene, and survival. Diseases like dysentery and parasitic infections spread quickly in cramped living conditions, making waste management a critical part of daily life, even if no one understood the science behind it. Looking at early human waste habits also helps us understand the social side of sanitation. Sharing space and resources meant people had to cooperate, agree on where and how to dispose of waste, and develop basic rules about cleanliness. These early social norms laid the groundwork for more organized, communal solutions to sanitation in later cultures. Before we talk about ancient civilizations with stone toilets and sewage systems, remember that all those inventions started with simple acts: digging a hole, choosing a safe spot, and trying to keep waste away from where people lived and ate. Those small decisions shaped the future of human health and comfort, and they remind us that even the most basic human needs have a long and complex history. The archaeological evidence from prehistoric sites continues to teach us more about these early sanitation habits. From fossilized human waste, called coprolites, to the remains of ancient latrines, scientists piece together how early humans lived with their waste. These clues offer a fascinating glimpse into a world where the simple act of going to the bathroom was anything but simple. Before we talk about the rise of complex sanitation in places like Mesopotamia or Egypt, it's worth reflecting on the courage and creativity of these earliest people. They managed a problem we all face with no guidance, no technology, and no modern conveniences, just their instincts, their community, and a few simple tools. This early chapter of human history shows us that even something as ordinary as a toilet has deep roots. It's a story of adaptation, survival, and the slow march toward making life cleaner and healthier for everyone. Before we talk about the next steps in sanitation history, it's clear that early humans laid the groundwork with their simple but effective solutions. These early toilets were not just holes in the ground, they were the very first chapters in a story that would eventually lead to the bathrooms we use today. Mesopotamia, cradle of civilization, and the birth of toilets. Before we talk about the grandeur of Roman aqueducts or the intricate bathhouses of ancient Greece, we must journey further back in time to the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Mesopotamia, often hailed as the cradle of civilization, was not only the birthplace of writing and law, but also a pioneer in the realm of sanitation. In the bustling cities of ancient Sumer and Babylon, the challenges of urban living necessitated innovative solutions for waste management. Archaeological excavations have unearthed evidence of early plumbing systems, including terracotta clay pipes used to transfer wastewater beneath latrines as early as 2500 BCE. These pipes, often connected to cesspits or rudimentary sewer systems, highlight the Mesopotamians' understanding of the importance of removing waste from living areas to maintain public health. The city of Uruk, one of the world's earliest urban centers, showcases some of the oldest known examples of brick-constructed latrines. These facilities were often integrated into residential structures, indicating that considerations for sanitation were embedded into urban planning from the outset. The use of baked clay pipes and ring drains in these systems reflects a sophisticated approach to waste disposal, aiming to prevent the accumulation of refuse in densely populated areas. Beyond private residences, public toilets were also a feature of Mesopotamian cities. Temples and palaces, serving as both religious and administrative hubs, were equipped with sanitation facilities. For instance, the northern palace in Eshnunna featured a latrine with multiple holes cut into a stone bench, suggesting communal use within elite settings. This integration of sanitation into significant public structures underscores the societal importance placed on cleanliness and order. Sanitation in Mesopotamia was deeply intertwined with religious practices. Temples, considered the dwelling places of gods, required ritual purity. Drainage systems within these sacred spaces were designed not only for practical purposes, but also to fulfill religious obligations. At Tel Asmar, archaeologists discovered a room with catch basins and a drain pipe, likely used to absorb the liquids from ritual offerings, ensuring that the temple remained clean and spiritually pure. The Mesopotamians also demonstrated an awareness of personal hygiene. Texts from the period mention the use of soap-like substances made from a mixture of oil and wood ash, used for washing woolen clothing and possibly for personal cleansing. This early form of soap reflects a broader cultural emphasis on cleanliness, both physical and spiritual. In terms of post-defecation hygiene, while there is limited direct evidence, it is believed that the Mesopotamians, like many ancient cultures, utilized natural materials such as water, leaves, or stones for cleaning. The absence of modern toilet paper did not deter them from developing methods to maintain personal cleanliness. Before we talk about the sanitation advancements in ancient Egypt or the Indus Valley, it's essential to recognize the foundational contributions of Mesopotamia. Their innovations in plumbing and waste management laid the groundwork for future civilizations to build upon. The Mesopotamians' holistic approach, combining practical engineering with religious and cultural considerations, set a precedent for integrating sanitation into the fabric of society. As we continue our exploration of ancient sanitation practices, the legacy of Mesopotamia serves as a testament to human ingenuity and the enduring quest for cleanliness and order in communal living. Ancient Egypt, gods, Nile, and hygiene. Before we talk about the grand bathhouses of Rome or the intricate sewer systems of the Indus Valley, we must journey to the banks of the Nile, where ancient Egyptians developed a profound connection between cleanliness, spirituality, and daily life. In ancient Egypt, cleanliness was not merely a matter of personal hygiene, but a sacred duty. The Egyptians believed that maintaining physical purity was essential to spiritual well-being. This belief was deeply embedded in their culture, influencing their daily routines and religious practices. For instance, priests were required to bathe multiple times a day and shave their entire bodies to maintain ritual purity. The emphasis on cleanliness extended to the general populace as well. Daily bathing was common, often performed using water from the Nile. Soap, as we know it today, was unknown, but the Egyptians used a cleansing agent made from a mixture of natron, a naturally occurring salt, ash, and clay. This mixture effectively removed oils and dirt from the skin, leaving the body clean and refreshed. Toilets in ancient Egypt varied based on social status. In wealthier households, especially during the New Kingdom period, homes were equipped with bathrooms that included limestone toilet seats positioned over a ceramic vessel. These facilities were often located near the sleeping quarters, indicating the importance of convenience and hygiene. For the common people, access to such amenities was limited. Many relied on communal latrines or designated areas near their homes. In some cases, simple wooden seats with holes were placed over pits, which were periodically emptied Despite the lack of sophisticated infrastructure, there was a clear understanding of the need to separate waste from living spaces to maintain health and cleanliness. Cleaning after defecation was an important aspect of Egyptian hygiene. Various materials were used for this purpose, including water, sand, and even papyrus. The use of water was particularly prevalent, reflecting the Egyptians' emphasis on thorough cleanliness. In some cases, small jugs of water were kept in bathrooms, specifically for this purpose. Public latrines were also present in ancient Egyptian society, especially in urban centers and workplaces. These facilities were often simple structures with multiple seats, allowing several individuals to use them simultaneously. They were typically located near sources of water to facilitate cleaning and maintenance. The presence of public latrines indicates an organized approach to sanitation and a communal responsibility for cleanliness. The connection between cleanliness and the afterlife was a significant aspect of Egyptian belief. According to the Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and rituals intended to guide the deceased through the afterlife, purity was essential for the soul's journey. One could not speak certain spells unless they were clean, dressed in fresh clothes, and anointed with oils. This belief in the spiritual importance of cleanliness influenced burial practices as well. The deceased were often buried with items related to hygiene, such as combs, razors, and containers of oils and perfumes. These items were intended to help the individual maintain cleanliness in the afterlife, ensuring their acceptance among the gods. In summary, the ancient Egyptians placed a high value on cleanliness, intertwining it with their religious beliefs and daily practices. Their approaches to sanitation, both in private homes and public spaces, reflect a sophisticated understanding of hygiene's role in health and spirituality. This emphasis on cleanliness not only improved their quality of life, but also underscored their desire for purity in both the physical and spiritual realms. Before we talk about the sanitation practices of ancient Greece, it's important to recognize how the Egyptians' commitment to cleanliness laid the groundwork for future civilizations. Approaches to hygiene and public health. The Indus Valley Civilization, the most advanced ancient plumbing. Before we talk about the grandeur of Roman aqueducts or the intricate bathhouses of ancient Greece, we must journey to the banks of the Indus River, where a civilization thrived over 4,000 years ago. The Indus Valley Civilization, encompassing cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, showcased an unparalleled commitment to urban planning and sanitation that was remarkably ahead of its time. In the heart of this civilization, Mohenjo-daro stood as a testament to architectural and engineering prowess. The city was meticulously laid out in a grid pattern, with streets intersecting at right angles, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of urban design. Homes, regardless of their size, were constructed using standardized baked bricks, ensuring uniformity and stability. Many of these residences boasted private wells, bathing areas, and toilets, emphasizing the importance placed on personal hygiene. The drainage system of Mohenjo-daro was nothing short of revolutionary. Covered drains ran alongside major streets, connected to individual homes through smaller channels. These drains were constructed with precisely laid bricks and featured inspection holes at regular intervals, facilitating maintenance and preventing blockages. Wastewater from bathrooms and latrines was directed into these drains, which then emptied into soak pits or cesspools located outside the city limits. Harappa, another prominent city of the Indus Valley civilization, mirrored the urban sophistication of Mohenjo-daro. Its streets were lined with covered drains, and homes were equipped with bathing areas and toilets. The consistency in urban planning across different cities indicates a centralized authority or shared cultural values emphasizing cleanliness and order. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro stands as a monumental example of the civilization's emphasis on cleanliness, measuring approximately 12 meters in length and 7 meters in width. This structure was built with watertight bricks and featured a sophisticated drainage system. While its exact purpose remains debated, many scholars believe it served ritualistic functions, highlighting the intertwining of hygiene and spirituality. The integration of sanitation facilities into residential structures underscores the civilization's holistic approach to urban living. Homes were designed with sloped floors to facilitate water drainage, and toilets were often connected to the main drainage system. This level of integration indicates a society that prioritized public health and understood the implications of waste management. Beyond the physical infrastructure, the Indus Valley civilization's approach to sanitation reflects a broader societal commitment to cleanliness and order. The uniformity in city layouts, the standardization of construction materials, and the emphasis on waste disposal all point to a culture that valued hygiene as a cornerstone of daily life. In conclusion, the Indus Valley civilization's advancements in sanitation and urban planning were unparalleled in the ancient world. Their holistic approach to city design, integrating residential, public, and sanitation structures, set a precedent for future civilizations. The remnants of their cities serve as a testament to a society that thousands of years ago recognized the intrinsic link between cleanliness, health, and societal well-being. Ancient China, toilet culture, and practices. Before we talk about the porcelain flush toilets of modern times, let's journey back to ancient China, where sanitation practices were deeply intertwined with agriculture, social customs, and spiritual beliefs. In the vast landscapes of early Chinese civilization, managing human waste was both a practical necessity and a reflection of societal values. One of the most notable practices was the collection and use of night soil, human excrement, as fertilizer. This resource was so valuable that it became a cornerstone of agricultural productivity, especially in densely populated regions. Farmers would collect waste from urban areas, transporting it to the countryside to enrich their fields. This recycling of nutrients not only sustained crop yields, but also maintained a level of urban cleanliness that impressed foreign visitors. The methods of waste collection were systematic. In cities, designated workers would visit households to collect night soil, often during the early hours to minimize disruption. The waste was stored in large earthenware pots, sometimes buried to their rims in the ground, over which simple privies were constructed. These facilities were common in both urban and rural settings, reflecting a society that prioritized practical solutions for sanitation. Toilets themselves varied across regions and social classes. In northern China, where water was scarce, squat toilets were prevalent. These dry toilets allowed for the easy collection of waste without the need for water-based flushing systems. In contrast, chamber pots were widely used, especially in households without direct access to outdoor facilities. These portable containers were kept in bedrooms or under beds and emptied regularly. The design and material of chamber pots could range from simple ceramics to more elaborate versions, depending on the owner's wealth and status. In imperial palaces, sanitation reflected the opulence of the court. Toilets were often more sophisticated, with better construction materials and more privacy. However, even in these grand settings, the fundamental principles of waste collection and reuse remained consistent with broader societal practices. Hygiene in ancient China was not solely about physical cleanliness. It was deeply connected to spiritual and philosophical beliefs. Taoism, for instance, emphasized harmony with nature and the importance of purification rituals. Regular bathing, often using herbal infusions, was considered essential for maintaining balance and health. Confucianism also promoted cleanliness as a virtue, linking it to moral integrity and social order. Moreover, certain deities were associated with sanitation. Zigu, known as the Lady of the Latrine, was a toilet goddess worshipped in various regions. Rituals dedicated to her were believed to protect households from disease and misfortune. These practices highlight the cultural significance attributed to sanitation and the efforts to integrate it into the spiritual life of the community. In summary, ancient China's approach to sanitation was multifaceted, combining practical waste management with agricultural needs, social customs, and spiritual beliefs. The integration of these elements created a comprehensive system that addressed the challenges of waste disposal while reinforcing the values and structures of society. Before we talk about the sanitation practices of ancient Rome, it's important to recognize how China's innovative and holistic approach to waste management laid the groundwork for future developments in public health and urban planning. Ancient Greece, public toilets, and social spaces. Before we talk about the grandeur of Roman sanitation, it's essential to explore the foundations laid by ancient Greece. The Greeks, known for their emphasis on public life and civic engagement, integrated sanitation into their urban planning in ways that reflected their societal values. In bustling city centers, or agoras, public latrines were strategically placed to serve both practical and social functions. These facilities were often located near bathhouses, reinforcing the Greek commitment to cleanliness and community. The design typically featured stone benches with evenly spaced holes, allowing multiple individuals to use the facilities simultaneously. Beneath these benches, channels facilitated the flow of water, ensuring waste was carried away efficiently. This setup not only addressed sanitation needs, but also provided a space for conversation and interaction, blurring the lines between private and public spheres. The Greeks' approach to hygiene extended beyond the infrastructure. Instead of modern toilet paper, they employed materials like small stones, known as pesoi, or fragments of broken pottery called ostraca, for personal cleaning. These items were often smoothed for comfort and sometimes inscribed, adding a personal or even political touch to the practice. Bathing rituals further exemplified the Greek dedication to cleanliness. Citizens would anoint themselves with oils, engage in physical activity, and then scrape off the mixture of sweat and dirt using a curved metal tool called a strigil. This process was not only about physical cleanliness, but also held cultural significance, symbolizing discipline and self-care. The influence of Greek sanitation practices is evident in Roman developments. The Romans adopted and expanded upon Greek designs, incorporating more advanced engineering techniques. However, the foundational concepts of communal facilities and the integration of hygiene into daily life can be traced back to Greek innovations. In essence, ancient Greece's approach to sanitation was a reflection of its broader societal values, emphasizing community, cleanliness, and the seamless integration of public and private life. These practices not only addressed practical needs, but also fostered social cohesion and cultural identity. Ancient Rome, the height of toilet technology. Before we talk about the marvels of modern plumbing, we must journey back to ancient Rome, where sanitation reached unprecedented heights. The Romans engineered a vast network of aqueducts and sewers, with the Cloaca Maxima being the most renowned. This massive drainage system, constructed around the 6th century BCE, channeled wastewater and stormwater from the city into the Tiber River, showcasing Rome's commitment to public health and urban cleanliness. Public latrines, or foricai, were ubiquitous in Roman cities, often accommodating 20 or more users simultaneously. These facilities featured stone benches with keyhole-shaped openings and a continuous flow of water beneath to carry away waste. Far from being private, these latrines served as social hubs where citizens exchanged news, discussed politics, and engaged in daily gossip. In the absence of toilet paper, Romans employed a xylospongium, a sponge affixed to a wooden stick, for personal hygiene. After use, the sponge was rinsed in a bucket of water or vinegar, ready for the next person. While this communal tool might seem unsanitary by today's standards, it was a practical solution in an era that valued efficiency and resourcefulness. Wealthier Romans enjoyed private latrines within their homes, often adorned with mosaics and connected to the city's sewer system. These private facilities underscored the social divide, as the elite distanced themselves from the communal aspects of public latrines. Despite these advancements, Rome still grappled with public health challenges. Diseases were prevalent, partly due to the limitations of their sanitation systems and the dense urban population. Nonetheless, the Romans' efforts in engineering and public infrastructure laid the groundwork for modern sanitation practices. Interestingly, public latrines also played a role in the political and social fabric of Rome. They were venues for political discourse, business dealings, and the dissemination of information, reflecting the communal nature of Roman society. Before we talk about it, the decline of Roman sanitation systems in the post-imperial era, it's essential to appreciate how these innovations influenced subsequent civilizations, setting a precedent for public health and urban planning. Medieval Europe, the Dark Age, sanitation. Before we talk about the resurgence of sanitation practices in the Renaissance, it's crucial to understand the significant decline that occurred during the medieval period. Following the fall of the Roman Empire, Europe witnessed a regression in public health infrastructure, leading to rudimentary and often hazardous sanitation methods. The sophisticated aqueducts and sewer systems of Rome fell into disrepair, and with them, the knowledge and prioritization of urban sanitation diminished. In their place, more primitive methods emerged. Chamber pots became commonplace, used within homes and emptied into cesspits, or, alarmingly, directly onto the streets. To warn passers-by, individuals would shout "Gardez-l'eau," a corruption of the French "garde à l'eau," meaning watch out for the water. In castles and some urban dwellings, garderobes were constructed, small protruding rooms with openings that allowed waste to drop into moats or pits below. While innovative for their time, these facilities often led to contamination of water sources and contributed to the spread of disease. The accumulation of waste in public spaces posed significant health risks. Streets were often littered with refuse, leading to foul odors and attracting vermin. Although some cities implemented regulations to manage waste disposal, enforcement was inconsistent, and the lack of centralized sewage systems exacerbated the problem. The Church's influence during this period also impacted attitudes toward hygiene. While early Christian teachings did not oppose cleanliness, over time, ascetic practices that emphasized spiritual purity over physical cleanliness gained prominence. Some religious figures viewed bathing as a vanity, leading to a decline in public bathhouses and personal hygiene practices. Despite these challenges, there were efforts to improve conditions. Municipal authorities in some regions attempted to regulate waste disposal and maintain cleanliness in public areas. Occupational roles, such as gong farmers, emerged. Individuals responsible for removing human waste from cesspits and privies during nighttime hours to minimize public exposure. Moreover, certain myths and misconceptions about disease transmission influenced sanitation practices. The miasma theory, which posited that diseases spread through bad air, led to measures like the use of aromatic herbs and the avoidance of foul-smelling areas, though these actions had limited effectiveness in preventing illness. Before we talk about the advancements in sanitation that emerged during the Renaissance and beyond, it's essential to recognize how the medieval period's challenges and responses laid the groundwork for future public health initiatives. Other civilizations and unique practices. Before we talk about the global standardization of sanitation systems, it's enlightening to delve into the diverse and innovative practices of various civilizations. From the resourceful methods of the Maya and Aztecs to the ecological approaches in Africa and the culturally infused practices of Pacific Islanders, these societies developed sanitation solutions tailored to their environments and beliefs. Mesoamerican sanitation. The Maya and Aztecs, the Maya civilization demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of sanitation. Archaeological studies have uncovered pits used as latrines, which contained both human feces and maize starch residues, a byproduct of nixtamalization, the process of preparing corn for tamales and tortillas. This suggests that the Maya repurposed lime-rich water from food preparation to flush their toilets, showcasing an early form of waste management that intertwined daily life and hygiene practices. The Aztecs, particularly in Tenochtitlan, prioritized cleanliness in their urban planning. They employed a workforce dedicated to street cleaning and constructed public toilets throughout the city. Human waste was collected and used to fertilize chinampas, man-made agricultural islands, highlighting a cyclical approach to waste and agriculture. Traditional African sanitation practices in various African societies. Sanitation practices were deeply connected to environmental sustainability. Communities often used ash, leaves, or soil to cover human waste, aiding decomposition and reducing odors. This method not only managed waste effectively, but also returned nutrients to the soil, enhancing fertility. The Ashanti Empire in present-day Ghana exemplified organized sanitation efforts. Historical records indicate the presence of latrines in homes and a public works department responsible for daily street cleaning, reflecting a structured approach to urban hygiene. Pacific Islander and Polynesian methods in the Pacific Islands. Sanitation practices were influenced by cultural beliefs and environmental considerations. The concept of tapu in Polynesian culture denoted sacredness and imposed restrictions on certain areas and practices, including those related to sanitation. This cultural framework guided behaviors to maintain communal and environmental purity. However, challenges persist. As of 2006, over 16% of the Pacific Islands population practiced open defecation, and nearly half lacked access to improved sanitation facilities. Efforts to improve these conditions must consider traditional practices and beliefs to ensure culturally appropriate solutions. Before we talk about the evolution of sanitation in the modern era, it's important to recognize how these diverse practices underscore the adaptability and ingenuity of human societies in managing waste within their unique cultural and environmental contexts. The impact of toilet technology on health and society. Before we talk about the modern toilet and how it's changed the world, it's important to understand just how much early toilet technology shaped the societies that used it. Sanitation was never just about comfort or privacy. It was about survival, where people went to the bathroom, how they disposed of their waste, and who had access to those systems could mean the difference between health and epidemic, between order and chaos. Let's start with the basics. Public health. In the ancient world, many illnesses stemmed directly from poor sanitation. When waste was not removed properly, it contaminated water supplies and spread disease. In crowded cities, the effects were devastating. Ancient Rome, despite its advanced aqueducts and sewer systems, still struggled with outbreaks of typhus, dysentery, and other waterborne diseases. When those systems collapsed during the Middle Ages, the results were worse. In medieval Europe, waste often flowed directly into the streets or rivers, mixing with drinking water. With no widespread understanding of germs, people lived among their own filth. The Black Death in the 14th century killed nearly a third of Europe's population, and while fleas and rats played a part, the real problem was sanitation. Dead bodies, open sewage, and no proper means to clean streets or homes created the perfect breeding ground for disease. Before we talk about how access to toilets was connected to power, it's worth noting how social status played a direct role in health outcomes. In nearly every ancient civilization, the wealthy had cleaner, safer ways to relieve themselves. In Rome, rich families had private toilets that connected to the sewer and running water to flush it away. In contrast, the poor used chamber pots or public latrines, which were not always maintained. In Egypt, pharaohs had stone basins and servants who managed waste discreetly. Commoners often dug shallow holes. In China, emperors had elaborate setups with perfumed water and attendants, while rural peasants shared squat pits in India's Indus Valley cities. Houses with plumbing were typically those of the elite. Cleanliness and dignity were luxuries, and they were not distributed equally. And it wasn't just a matter of comfort. Social divisions were reflected in who could avoid disease. The more private your toilet, the less risk you carried. Public latrines, shared by many, spread infections and parasites quickly. This invisible line, who gets to be clean and who doesn't, still echoes today in the availability of clean bathrooms across the world. Before we talk about how societies thought about waste, we should consider the cultural and religious ideas around it. In some places, going to the bathroom was shameful or even taboo. In others, it was a part of ritual and purity. Hinduism, for example, has long traditions around cleanliness, with specific rules about washing after defecation. This shaped the widespread use of water instead of dry materials like paper. In Islam, too, there are strict guidelines for bathroom behavior, including washing with water and not facing Mecca while relieving oneself. Ancient Japan considered waste a part of the natural cycle. Night soil was collected from homes and sold to farmers as fertilizer. But not all cultures dealt with waste thoughtfully. In many European cities, waste disposal was an afterthought. Streets ran with refuse, and chamber pots were emptied from windows. The phrase, "Gardy loo," shouted in some cities before dumping waste, was little help when disease came calling. The problem wasn't just lack of technology, it was a lack of understanding and will. Before we talk about the toilets of today, we have to trace the line backward. Many of the foundations for modern plumbing were laid thousands of years ago. The Harappans built covered drainage systems. The Romans mastered aqueducts and sewers. Even ancient Greeks used rainwater for flushing latrines. These early experiments were fragile. When empires fell, so did their knowledge. For centuries after Rome, most of Europe abandoned the idea of sanitation. It wasn't until the 19th century that cities began to reclaim these old ideas, improving on them with new materials and science. The link between sanitation and disease was eventually proven. Once scientists realized that germs caused illness, toilets and sewage systems became more than just conveniences. They became tools of public health. A clean toilet wasn't just a private luxury anymore. It was a civic necessity. Before we talk about the end of our story, it's worth reflecting on how far we've come. Across the globe, billions of people still lack safe toilets. Many of them live in cities where ancient civilizations once built marvels of sanitation. History shows us that technology alone isn't enough. It takes commitment and understanding. The toilet has never been just a hole in the ground. It's a window into how we treat each other, how we organize our lives, and how we respect nature. In the ancient world, solving the bathroom problem shaped the rise and fall of cities, and it still does. Lessons from ancient bathrooms for today. Before we talk about the sleek, modern bathrooms of today, with their gleaming tiles and automatic flushes, let's take a quiet look backward. At first glance, ancient bathrooms may seem primitive or even humorous. A hole in the ground, a shared stone bench, a sponge on a stick. But when we pause to consider what these early systems accomplished and how they were designed, they offer us more than just curiosity. They offer lessons, important ones. Before we talk about smart toilets and AI-powered hygiene, it's worth remembering that some of the smartest ideas were already invented thousands of years ago. The Indus Valley, one of the oldest urban civilizations, built covered drainage systems and brick-lined toilets for individual homes. These systems were not flashy, but they were functional, and they worked in harmony with the city's layout. Waste was carried away from homes, reducing contamination and disease. Even today, many modern cities struggle to match that level of planning. Rome's sewer system, especially the Cloaca Maxima, was so well constructed that parts of it are still in use. The Romans knew how to move water, fresh water in through aqueducts, wastewater out through drains. They didn't have chemicals or bacteria science, but they understood that filth bred sickness. Their cities reflected that belief. Every latrine, public or private, was part of a larger network, not just an afterthought. Before we talk about environmental sustainability, we should revisit the idea of night soil. In ancient China and Japan, and even in parts of medieval Europe, human waste wasn't always discarded. It was collected and repurposed. Farmers bought it. Cities organized collection routes. This sounds unsanitary now, but with care and structure, it was efficient, and nothing went to waste. In an era of climate change and resource scarcity, the notion of recycling waste safely may have more relevance than we think. Before we talk about design, it's helpful to remember that ancient toilets weren't just functional, they were social. In Greece and Rome, public latrines were meeting places. People chatted while seated side by side. No dividers, no privacy. It's strange to imagine now, but it reflects how the act of going to the bathroom was seen differently. Not always shameful, but part of everyday life. Today, we prefer privacy, but the ancient world reminds us that culture shapes comfort. Before we talk about building more toilets around the world, we have to understand that the challenge isn't only technical, it's cultural. In many ancient civilizations, sanitation was tied to beliefs. In Egypt, cleanliness was divine. In India, purity was spiritual. In Islamic cultures, hygiene was required before prayer. These ideas drove innovation and discipline in waste management. Where culture supported cleanliness, the technology followed. What happens when culture resists? We saw it in medieval Europe. Even with knowledge from the Roman world, systems fell apart. Chamber pots replaced toilets. Streets filled with waste. The knowledge wasn't lost. It was ignored. Rebuilding those systems took hundreds of years. The lesson? Progress is fragile. Societies must choose to maintain and evolve their systems. If not, they risk moving backward. Before we talk about global sanitation campaigns today, consider how long the journey to modern toilets has really been. It wasn't quick. After Rome fell, it took nearly 1,000 years for Europe to reclaim similar infrastructure. The flush toilet, as we know it, didn't become common until the 19th century. Even then, many areas resisted the idea of indoor plumbing. Habits are hard to change, but history shows that they can change. Slowly, steadily. Today, 1 in 4 people still lacks access to a safe toilet. That's not just inconvenient, it's dangerous. Ancient people understood this intuitively. Waste had to go somewhere. If it stayed near people, illness spread. That basic logic shaped how cities like Harappa, Babylon, and Athens were built. They didn't always get it right, but they knew the stakes. So what can we learn? Before we talk about the future of sanitation, we should take ancient solutions seriously. Covered drains, gravity-based sewage, water for cleansing, communal responsibility, integration into city plans. None of these are new ideas, but they worked, and they were designed with purpose. Modern technology offers incredible tools: sensors, filters, self-cleaning surfaces. But without the ancient wisdom of planning, maintenance, and respect for the system, even the smartest toilet can fail. Ancient builders knew something we sometimes forget. Waste doesn't disappear. It moves. And if we don't manage it, it manages us. Before we talk about what comes next, let's reflect on how far we've come. From open fields to marble latrines. From cesspits to flush toilets. From shame to science. Each step tells a story, and each story reminds us that even the smallest, quietest corner of daily life can shape entire civilizations. A quiet reflection on the long road to the bathroom. Let's take a breath, slow down, and reflect on the strange, fascinating, and often messy journey we've just taken together. From the dark corners of prehistoric forests to the marble-floored latrines of ancient Rome. From the brick-lined drains of the Indus Valley to the humble chamber pots of medieval Europe. We've seen a world without modern plumbing, and how people everywhere, from kings to commoners, had to solve one basic, universal problem before flushing toilets, before hand soap, before porcelain and plumbing codes. There was improvisation. There was survival. There was dignity in the simplest of acts. You've just traveled thousands of years through something most of us don't think about at all. The bathroom, a place so normal, so mundane, yet shaped by war, religion, science, and social change. And somehow, it changed us too. Sanitation has always been more than just keeping clean. It's been about public health, about community, about who belongs and who doesn't. Access to a private space, to safety, to cleanliness, has always marked the line between comfort and risk, between privilege and struggle. The way people handled waste tells us how they thought about the body, about life, about others. In ancient Egypt, it was tied to the divine. In Rome, it became a place of conversation. In China, it was part of farming. In medieval Europe, it became a sign of decline. And always, it was a reminder that civilization must deal with its dirt. We often imagine history as kings and queens, great battles, and famous buildings. But real life happens in small moments, quiet ones. Someone digging a hole, someone emptying a pot, someone laying a pipe in the dirt, someone teaching their child how not to get sick. None of these people had statues built for them. Most of them weren't named, but they kept their cities going. They kept their families safe. They deserve a quiet thank you. And so, here's to them. The anonymous engineers of Mohenjo-Daro, the slaves who cleaned the Roman sewers, the night soil collectors of ancient China, the mothers in medieval cottages, the laborers who built and emptied and scrubbed and fixed, with no fame and very little thanks. We remember them here, softly and with respect, because sanitation isn't just history, it's still a crisis today. Millions of people don't have safe toilets, don't have clean water, don't have privacy or protection. The journey isn't over, but understanding where we started and what people endured along the way helps us see how far we've come and why we must keep going. So next time you sit on your modern toilet, with its clean water, flushing power, and private door, take just 1 second to think about the road that got you there. It wasn't glamorous, but it mattered. It shaped civilization. It saved lives. It still does. If you found this journey fascinating, or if it made you think a little differently about something so basic, we'd love for you to join us again. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who loves history told a little differently. And remember, sometimes the quietest parts of life hold the loudest lessons. This is Restless Historian. Stay curious, sleep well, and thank your toilet.